What's up with y'all, man? Hope y'all having a blessed one, man. We back with another one, man. Today we got Killer thinks he got away until cops find his secret. Ugh. Let's get into this one right here.
Police emergency line.
Lady, I don't know. The man is laying out here on the ground. He's hollering help. He's laying out here on the grass.
And what's going on, sir?
The man has been shot.
Do you know who shot him?
Lady, I don't know who shot the man. All I know is that he's been shot. He's laying out here on the dirt. The man could be dead.
Soon after this 911 call, Clear Lake police officers raced to the scene on the south side of town. When they arrived, they found an unconscious man on the ground gasping for air. But as the officers checked over him, something didn't add up. There was no blood, no visible injuries.
Still gonna need medical for some odd reason. Sir, are you alright? What's your name?
Steve Galvin.
Steve Galvin?
Not that we can see. Well, I mean, he keeps doing this, though.
Steven! Steven, can we take a look at you? What's going on, partner? Steven! Wake up for me, partner. What's going on today?
Oh.
Hey, Steven? Steven, who did this to you?
I think we're far enough away.
Cyclops?
Cyclops. This is the last word they could get from Stephen as he choked in agony. But little did they know, this single name would unravel a series of horrifying secrets and expose a chilling truth that no one was prepared for. When the Lake County Fire and Rescue Team pulled up to the scene, Stephen still lay on the ground, his body limp and unresponsive. His breath was labored, each inhale and exhale heavy and strained.
Initially, when I got there, my focus was, tending to a gunshot victim, and then immediately when I started checking him and couldn't find any blood, any holes, any injuries, several things started going through our mind of, what is actually happening here. So medical was requested to respond to the scene.
The medics quickly scanned his body, searching for any obvious signs of trauma. There were no gunshot wounds, no gashes, no visible injuries that could explain his rapidly deteriorating state. Yet something was clearly very wrong. As they continued their examination, the medics noticed a small red mark on Stephen's lower right torso. It was subtle, almost easy to miss, but it stood out against his pale skin.
Eventually, they find a small, red mark on his bottom, right torso area.
The mark didn't look like much, just a small round spot that could have been the result of anything from a bug bite to a minor scrape. But given the circumstances, the team knew better than to dismiss it. Increasingly concerned, they continued their search. On the opposite side of Stephen's body, on his left back area, they discovered a second red mark. This one, too, was small and unassuming, but its presence in combination with the first mark set off alarms in the minds of the medics. Those were clearly puncture wounds. They were too small to be immediately obvious, but their placement, one on the front and one on the back, suggested that a bullet had pierced Stephen's body, entering from one side and exiting the other, possibly a small caliber weapon. While the medics debated the possibilities, they knew that their priority was stabilizing Stephen. They decided that he needed more specialized care than they could provide on site. A decision was made to airlift Stephen to a nearby trauma center where he could receive the intensive medical treatment he clearly needed. Once it was ensured that Stephen was given medical support, the investigation could finally begin. Their first step was to speak with a 911 caller, a witness whose account could be crucial to understanding what happened.
How's it going?
Fine.
Just want to ask you a few questions about what you saw.
I ain't saw. I just heard the shots. I was watching and I heard two shots. Then I heard the guy hollering, "Somebody help me." And I just happened to see the tail end of a white truck as it passed by my truck there.
Now, before they went into the details of the truck and the shooter, a few detectives couldn't shake the feeling that they'd heard the name Cyclops before. Detective Robert Peterson was the first to connect the dots. He mentioned a man named David Cox, known by the street name Cyclops. David Cox wasn't just any ordinary criminal. He was notorious for his violent past, distinctive tattoo, and more importantly, the fact that he was currently on parole. He'd recently moved to Clear Lake, making him a prime suspect. With this lead, the detectives focused their efforts on finding David. They knew his reputation well. David was dangerous, unpredictable, and had a history that made him the most likely person to be involved in the recent violence. The team quickly pulled together everything they had on him, digging through past records and parole information. He'd been in and out of prison for years, his rap sheet filled with violent offenses. Knowing they were dealing with someone as dangerous as David, the detectives wasted no time. They secured a warrant and set out to track him down.
This one for y'all, man.
When investigators spoke with Stephen's acquaintances and friends, they discovered that Stephen and David had crossed paths about 6 months before the tragic incident. Their relationship, however, was far from smooth. David had a deep hate towards Stephen, believing that Stephen had stolen a phone and a tablet from him. According to David, there had been an agreement where Stephen promised to compensate him for the items, but tensions continued to simmer between them. It was a feud that kept building, ready to explode into something far more sinister. On the morning of July 2nd, 2015, the day of the shooting, these tensions reached a boiling point. The two men found themselves locked in a heated argument over the unresolved issue. David was insistent on being compensated, while Stephen, for reasons unknown, hadn't followed through on the payment. All this added to the belief that David might have been solely responsible for the shooting. Meanwhile, at the hospital, medical staff continued their desperate efforts to save Stephen's life. Despite their best efforts and numerous techniques to stabilize him, the damage was too severe. The gunshot wound to his abdomen had caused irreparable harm, and Stephen succumbed to his injuries. The doctors, who had fought so hard to keep him alive, could do nothing more. Tragically, Stephen passed the very same day. The news of his death hit the investigators hard. They'd seen their fair share of tragedies, but something about this case was particularly gut-wrenching. Stephen had been alone in his final moments, no family by his side, no loved ones to hold his hand as he slipped away. The autopsy revealed that he died from a gunshot wound to his lower abdomen. After the examination, his body was carefully placed in a body bag, preserving it for further investigation and evidence collection. This was now a full-blown homicide case, and David was now considered a significant threat to society. Now the police were on an intense manhunt for David. He was on the run, and with every hour that passed, the danger grew. They weren't just hunting a suspect. They were chasing a ticking time bomb ready to explode again.
At Spartan College, we teach aviation. At our Inland Empire area campus, our aviation maintenance technology program is designed to equip students with the technical skills required to service, repair, and overhaul aircraft components and systems. We were established way back in 1928.
Given his background and the severity of the incident, authorities feared he might strike again. With the urgency of the situation weighing heavily on them, the officers set their sights on one of David's last known addresses. This location, where David had been staying with his ex-girlfriend, Krista Larson, became their immediate target. The cops approached the address with their weapons drawn, fully aware of the danger that may lay ahead. David was most likely armed, and the officers had no idea what they were walking into. David could have been waiting for them, ready to make his next move. And one wrong decision could be his last, or theirs.
Ma'am, can you come on out here? David Cox's ex-girlfriend?
Yes.
Okay. Is David here?
No.
Nobody's here? Just you?
Yes.
Okay. You mind if I check the house?
Thorough search of the house. Officer Cook led the way, carefully clearing each room, but David was nowhere to be found. The tension hung in the air as they walked back outside, the search coming up empty. Determined not to leave any stone unturned, they returned to David's ex-girlfriend, hoping she could provide more information that might lead them to his whereabouts.
Do you have a phone number for him?
No, well, I do, but I don't want to give it to you.
Okay.
I'll tell you right now, if you interfere in our investigation, I will arrest you.
Okay, well, I called when you guys got to the top of it, and the last time I called in was it. What?
It's a homicide that we're working right now. That's why I have the gun out. So you right now do not want to get in the middle of it, okay?
All right.
All right, what's his number? We're gonna be wiretapping all these phones and stuff. So my suggestion is you don't call him, communicate with him. I would suggest avoiding him until we have him.
He's possible suspect in a homicide, murder.
Yeah.
That's why we're here with guns and dogs.
So what's his number?
Initially, she hesitated to provide David's phone number, but after being informed about the gravity of it being a homicide investigation, she became more cooperative. The officers emphasized the seriousness of the crime, noting that David was a possible suspect in a murder. With this, she eventually provided them with David's phone number and another address where he might be staying in another part of the city. Officers proceeded to the address provided by Crystal, moving swiftly to follow up on the lead. Meanwhile, Sergeant Joseph remained behind, continuing to question Crystal in his patrol car, hoping to extract any additional information that could assist in locating David.
Stephen who?
I don't know exactly. He goes like they had to over a phone and a tablet.
Okay.
A long time ago, a while back.
All right.
And
That might be him.
what? Dude.
With David's ex-girlfriend confirming this, the cops confirmed that this could have been a possible motive for David's alleged murder of Stephen. Acting on this new information, officers surrounded a house where they believed David might be hiding. The atmosphere was charged with tension as law enforcement prepared for any potential the situation was slowly escalating, and David might be doing something inside. Maybe arming himself, preparing for a shootout, or perhaps holding someone hostage. But the detectives were not prepared for what was about to happen.
The Clear Lake Police Department, you are surrounded. Residents in the home, we have K.I. here. K.I. will be deployed inside the residence. In the home, this is the last and final warning. This is the Clear Lake Police Department. We are now ordering you each out of the residence. We know that there's at least 4 subjects in the home, maybe more. We will be deploying a K.9 into the residence. Residents in the home, we believe that one of you or multiple persons that may be armed.
Trying to.
Movement. Come on with your hands up. Come on with your hands up. You are considered armed. Keep your hands in the air. Step out.
Finally, after what felt like an eternity, David emerged from the house. He stepped out with his arms extended, and the officers immediately began shouting commands. David looked at them and simply nodded, as if fully aware of the gravity of the situation and resigned to the outcome.
Back. Down your knees. Do it now. Stand up. Over here. Good.
It was unreadable.
I'm well aware of what you guys think I did, but I don't know why you guys think that.
Have a seat, David.
Okay. Hey, you guys are going to ask me, right? You're not going to take me to jail on the assumption, right?
Transporting Lasses Cox en Route 19.
At the Clear Lake Police Station, officers began the process of booking David. Despite the seriousness of the situation, David appeared calm and claimed ignorance about the charges. Observers noted that he came across as a highly intelligent individual equipped with street smarts and familiar with the criminal justice system. During the processing, David was keen on gathering information about the case, asking detailed questions about the investigation.
Did somebody actually get hurt?
I don't know, man.
I don't know what happened, but I heard that they said David Cox, tattoos on face, got without a gun. Do you know that? Other than that, I don't know. But I know that I heard somebody got killed over there, right?
Oh, that's news to me.
Oh my God, if that's it, I'm like freaking out, you know what I mean? Oh.
However, as is standard practice, the officers refrained from sharing any specifics to prevent any potential cross-contamination of evidence or witness statements. Meanwhile, back at the scene of David's arrest, officers continued their work by rounding up other individuals who had been inside the house.
Subject with the red hat. Do not do anything I do not direct you to do, otherwise you will be shot. Do you understand? If you understand, give me a thumbs up.
given the nature of the case and the potential danger, they treated each person with caution, removing them from the residence at gunpoint. The officers were well aware that those involved in violent activities often associate with others of similar backgrounds, so maintaining the safety of the community was paramount. Some of these individuals were taken to the station for further questioning. With David now in custody, the investigation was far from over. Detectives realized they had only just begun to unravel the full scope of the case. There were still numerous interviews to conduct, evidence to collect, and connections to be made. Sergeant Peterson faced one of the most difficult tasks in his line of duty, informing Stephen's loved ones about his tragic death. Before he could even reach out to Stephen's mother to gather information about Stephen's life, the people he associated with, or potential motives for the incident, he received heartbreaking news. Stephen's mother had passed away a day later after his death. The weight of this loss made the situation even more difficult. With no immediate family to turn to, Sergeant Peterson approached Stephen's girlfriend, who was still in the dark about the severity of what had happened. She was unaware of Stephen's condition, holding on to the faint hope that he might pull through.
You know about Stephen? Yeah. I know you. Okay. I know that you're not going to have to go through all this again, all right? Stephen's not here anymore.
In this moment of grief, Sergeant Peterson reassured Stephen's girlfriend, offering to make sure she was in a safe place and surrounded by supportive people as she began to process the devastating news.
Oh my God. Is there someone I can call for you or something? Or what do you want to do right now? I want to make sure you're someplace safe and with some support people around, okay?
Though Stephen had a criminal history and had made questionable choices in life, he was still a human being deserving of dignity and compassion. As Stephen's girlfriend mourned, the investigation continued with urgency. With David now in custody at the station, detectives were focused on uncovering every detail of the case. It was during this time that another individual, who had been detained during the raid of the house, approached the detectives with a desire to speak about the incident.
Now, I was advised that you had some information and some concerns. What are your concerns?
My concerns are my safety.
For what?
For anything. Just even this from talking to you guys.
Well, what do you know?
Huh?
What do you know?
Well, I know he didn't do it.
Who didn't do what?
It's Cyclops.
Okay, Cyclops didn't do what?
Do anything.
So playing the games here is not helping you.
I'm not playing no games.
I want to know what happened today. Since you know the name of the person.
I do know that.
Okay, who did it? And how do you know this?
How are you going to protect me?
No one saw coming. The investigation into Stephen's murder took an unexpected turn when detectives were confronted with the new testimony from a surprise witness. It wasn't necessarily shocking, but it was certainly a pivotal moment in the case. The witness claimed to have been with David at the time of the murder. This contradicted the dying declaration made by Stephen, which had pointed directly to David. Now, detectives found themselves facing conflicting statements, one from a victim's final words and another from a crucial witness who insisted that David was innocent. The situation was becoming increasingly complex, making it difficult for the investigators to discern who was telling the truth. The possibility that there had been a mistake in identifying the suspect began to weigh heavily on them. The witness was firm in his assertion that David had not been involved in Stephen's killing, a claim that raised troubling questions. If David wasn't the killer, then someone else was still out there, unidentified and possibly dangerous. This realization shattered any hope that the case would be straightforward. What initially seemed like an open and shut situation was quickly unraveling into a more intricate mystery. In light of this new information, the investigative team decided to confront David directly, hoping to get closer to the truth. During the interrogation, David remained steadfast in his denial. He claimed that he didn't know why he was in custody and insisted that he wasn't involved in Stephen's death. Although he admitted to knowing Stephen, David was vague about their relationship, leaving detectives with more questions than answers. The detectives now had to take on a new kind of challenge to break the suspect's resolve.
I want to go home real bad.
Okay, listen.
Okay, I woke up this morning to my grandmother's knock on my bedroom door at around approximately 8:30. That was to get my stuff, and then we went back to my mom's house. Okay, hung out for a little bit, ate a bowl of cereal. All right, when we were done with that,
Okay, you went to what?
mom's house on Maple.
Okay.
I never left there. I don't want to say something that I don't know is going on, and you haven't told me.
Not how this works. Okay, I'm investigating probably something pretty.
I know it's probably pretty serious. I heard.
Absolutely pretty serious. Why would it be the fact that the last words that I get out of T-Bone?
I agree.
When I ask him who, he says Cyclops.
I can't believe that guy did, dude.
Look at me. Why would the last words out of his mouth be your name?
I think he just assumed. I can't answer for him.
Crocodile tears don't work for me, man.
I can't answer for him.
During the interrogation, David maintained his innocence, repeatedly asserting that he had no involvement in Stephen's death. He claimed to be unaware of the reason for his arrest and
That motherfucking wood got me goddamn shit. Hold on.
insisted that his connection to Stephen was minimal, offering only vague details about their relationship. Despite his protests, the investigators pressed on, determined to uncover the truth. When questioned further, David became visibly anxious, particularly when confronted with the fact that Stephen's last words had been his name, Cyclops. The detectives wanted to know why Stephen, in his final moments, would call out for David if he wasn't involved. David could only speculate, suggesting that Stephen might have assumed it was him, but he was adamant that he couldn't speak for the victim. As the interrogation intensified, David's anxiety turned into a display of emotion that seemed out of character for someone with his reputation. The man, who is known to be a hardened criminal, began to cry, a reaction that no one would have
God damn, killers can't cry.
ever expected.
They didn't just pick you out of the hat.
I know
They
that.
just
I
pick
know
you
that.
out
I know
because
that.
of
I
the way
know
you
that. I know
look.
that. And it's
Okay, you're the only person that in this town with the name Cyclops.
I'm not denying that. I'm not denying any of that.
You're looking at me going to jail when I leave this room with murder charges.
That's insane, dude. I would not.
Okay.
And I knew that. Okay,
David, look at it from our side.
I know. I'm going to jail. I know it. I know
So if you have anything to tell me to be able to save you from that, you need to tell me.
I don't.
Despite David's emotional outburst, the officers remained resolute. They made it clear that his tears would not deter them from pursuing justice for Stephen. David repeatedly affirmed that he understood the seriousness of the situation, yet he continued to deny any wrongdoing, despite the mounting evidence against him. The officers reminded him that his name was tied to the crime in a way that couldn't be easily dismissed, and that they weren't about to let him walk free without answers. Officer Peterson, who had a history with David, suspected that David might be lying. The officer's familiarity with David's background only heightened his doubts about David's innocence. With David in custody and the investigation at a critical juncture, the detectives faced the challenge of gathering enough evidence to definitively link him to Stephen's murder. Meanwhile, Stephen was laid to rest under the care of Jones and Lewis Clear Lake Memorial Chapel. Stephen's end was a lonely one, with only one to mourn for him or be by his side in his final moments. This made the detectives all the more determined to solve this case for Stephen, as it was the least they could do for him. The detectives knew they had to exhaust every possible lead. With David already in custody, but still denying any involvement, they decided to revisit a key figure in the investigation, David's ex-girlfriend, Crystal Larson. Given her previous hesitations and guarded responses, the detectives hoped she might now be more forthcoming, especially after learning about the severity of the crime. When they approached her again, she revealed something that piqued their interest. She mentioned that after hearing about the incident, she had started to consider the possibility that someone else might have been responsible for Stephen's death. This revelation was crucial, and recognizing the potential importance of this new lead, they decided to bring Crystal into the station for a more thorough interrogation. They hoped that in a controlled environment, away from any distractions or outside influences, she would be more willing to share what she knew.
All right, I talked to you on the phone. Mm-hmm. You said you made the comment that you went and talked to some people, found out that David wasn't the one who did this. Okay. So can you point me in the right direction then?
I'm not saying anything to nobody about what we're talking about. Nobody even knows that I know.
I get it. Let me explain this real simple to you, okay? If what you're telling me is the truth, I need you to be extremely forthcoming in this, okay?
I just want to spit the name out, but I'm so afraid.
During the interrogation, it became increasingly apparent that David's ex-girlfriend was holding something back. Her body language was tense, and the detectives could sense her fear. It wasn't just the pressure of the questioning that made her nervous, but something deeper. Despite her anxiety, she remained firm on one point. David was not the one responsible for Stephen's murder. The detectives started to consider the possibility that there was someone else out there, someone still roaming the streets who was truly responsible for the crime. And they wanted to get the name from her, which held the potential to expose a horrifying truth that could change everything.
Let me explain this to you. If you have information, I need that information because it's the difference between his freedom and not his freedom, his life and not his life.
I know that. Now, honestly, it's just Billy Mount.
Billy Mount?
Billy Mount, or Billy Raymond Mount, struck a chord with the officers the moment it was mentioned. Billy wasn't just any name in their records. He was a well-known figure, notorious for his extensive criminal background. He was a skinhead connected with numerous gang-related allegations and had been on law enforcement's radar for quite some time. His history was littered with run-ins with the law, and he was far from being cooperative in any of those encounters. With the name Billy Mount now at the forefront of their investigation, the detectives grew increasingly confident that he might be the person they'd been pursuing all along. The pieces were beginning to fit, and the focus shifted entirely toward bringing Billy in for questioning. 3 days had passed since the tragic murder of Stephen, and the Clear Lake detectives were now fully engaged in tracking down this new person of interest. And the break they were waiting for came unexpectedly. While on routine patrol, officers spotted Billy walking along a roadway, seemingly unaware that he was the target of an intense manhunt. The moment was crucial, and the officers knew they had to act fast. They immediately contacted the lead detective, informing him that Billy had been located. He instructed the officers to detain Billy and transport him directly to the police department. The plan was clear: get Billy into custody and start the interrogation as soon as possible.
There's people that are trying to dime you out, okay, as a person that did this. Okay.
Yeah, okay, whatever, man.
So,
People hate me.
I understand that. That's why, and I'll tell you right
I got a lot of enemies. I didn't hurt nobody.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
We're going to start at the beginning of your day and just work our way through. Okay.
I was at his house. I've been there for the past week.
Okay. You haven't left your brother's house?
I have not left my brother's house for the last week.
Billy insisted that the accusations against him were the result of personal animosity from others who were attempting to frame him. Despite his claims of innocence, the detectives were not convinced by his arrogance and dismissiveness. They decided to methodically review his account of the day leading up to the murder. Billy maintained that he'd not left his brother's house for the entire week prior to the murder. However, this assertion clashed with information from Crystal, who had suggested that Billy was not telling the truth. This contradiction heightened the detective's suspicion of Billy's involvement. As the interrogation continued, Billy's frustration grew.
I mean, I'm getting tired of getting interrogated right now. I want to be arrested for it now. I want to see the trial. I want to work. You know what I mean?
To verify Billy's alibi, the detectives planned to visit his brother's house. This step was crucial in either corroborating or disproving Billy's claim of being there throughout the week.
So when you got home at midnight, 1 o'clock, he was here. What did he say?
He just said there's something stupid in the house there.
Okay.
Billy's friend, who had been questioned as part of the ongoing investigation, showed a high level of nervousness throughout the conversation. It was clear to the detectives that while the friend was hesitant to provide information, he was also reluctant to outright lie. When pressed, the friend was asked whether his statements were intended to please the detectives or reflected the truth of what occurred. He assured them that he was speaking truthfully about the events. In the midst of this, Detective Peterson's phone rang with a chilling revelation. The unexpected phone call came from a woman who revealed that her son, Sean Whiteman, was involved in the murder of Stephen. The woman described her son as a timid individual with no significant history of violence or criminal activity. Her son, who was aware of the investigation, had been trying to avoid any involvement with law enforcement, believing that he'd eventually be sought out by the police. And so Sean was brought in for interrogation.
Before you got to the house on Vista, where were you?
I was at my house.
So you wake up, you drive where? Or what's the first thing you do when you wake up?
I called my friend, and he asked me if I'd help him get a beer.
Okay. Then what?
And I said, okay. I said, I'll help you get a beer.
And you drive a white Chevy
S10. 2000. The year is 2000.
With the new witness coming forward, the detectives no longer needed to search for a white truck. The witness identified themselves as the driver of the truck described by multiple witnesses, confirming its involvement in the case. This pivotal development provided a direct link to the vehicle, aligning with the case descriptions.
By yourself?
By myself, yes.
Did you go anywhere prior to that?
To the Shell station to get him a beer.
Okay.
We were sitting in the room drinking a beer, and Billy said, I'll give you a half a gallon of gas. You give me a ride to my friend's house. So he siphoned the gas out of his truck. I just put it in my tank, and I gave Billy a ride.
At this point, all the evidence and Sean's statements pointed towards Billy. Peterson decided to take decisive action. They asked him to show them the locations relevant to the case, where they first met Billy, where they drove him, and where they last saw him that day. Sean agreed to cooperate and guide him through these crucial locations.
Here, this is what we're going to do, okay? As we approach where this happened, I want you to have me do everything you did.
So he told me, turn right here. And as soon as I turned right here, he said right up here, it seemed like it was right in the drive up here by this driveway where this fence is right up here. Now this blue garbage can, somewhere right around this driveway right here.
You stopped here?
It was somewhere right around here, yeah, like right here, the next house. Said, pull over, and the guy was walking right here, and the guy looked at me through the windshield, walked this way. And as soon as I looked over at Billy, he pulls the gun out and shoots the guy 2 times. He says, drive. So I drove.
So you drove.
Yeah, and I heard the guy crying. He pulls the gun out and shoots the guy 2 times. He says, drive. He said, right up here, it seemed like it was right in the drive up here by this driveway where this fence is right up here. Now this blue garbage can, somewhere right around this driveway right here.
You stopped here?
It was somewhere right around here, yeah, like right here, the next house. Said, pull over, and the guy was walking right here, and the guy looked at me through the windshield, walked this way. And as soon as I looked over at Billy, he pulls the gun out and shoots the guy 2 times. He says, drive. So I drove.
So you drove.
Yeah, and I heard the guy crying in pain when he got shot, so I knew he hit him.
Sean had more to reveal to Detective Peterson. As they drove through the area, Sean pointed out a location alongside the roadside. They stopped.
Sean looked like Cyclops.
And the witness directed Peterson to a specific spot. Upon inspection, Peterson discovered a culvert along the edge of the road. Reaching into it, Peterson pulled out a bag which contained the firearm used in the crime.
So you pulled up to here? Mm-hmm. Okay. Somewhere in there on the right-hand side somewhere is where you supposedly hid the gun. Yeah.
The firearm was promptly sent to the Department of Justice for latent print and DNA processing. Analysis revealed that tandem repeats on the firearm matched Billy's. Additionally, fingerprints were dusted from the truck, and a CD case inside the vehicle was found to have Billy's fingerprint on it. This provided crucial physical evidence linking Billy to the scene. With both the firearm and the truck tying Billy to the crime, investigators became certain that Billy was responsible for Stephen's murder. The driver of the white truck, who had briefly been a person of interest, was cleared of involvement, as it was determined he was merely in the wrong place at the wrong time. Billy was arrested and charged with Stephen's murder. Yet the motive behind the murder remained elusive. When speaking to the driver of the white truck, Detective Peterson inquired if Billy had made any remarks about the incident. The driver recalled that Billy had mentioned he shot Stephen because he believed Stephen had harmed someone unable to defend themselves. However, there were no records or allegations of such a crime involving Stephen, leaving the true motive behind the murder shrouded in mystery. Billy Mount underwent a 2-month trial where key testimony was provided by David Cox, who testified under a grant of use immunity. David admitted to being a drug user, self-identified skinhead with a history of felony convictions, and a leader of local skinhead groups that included Billy. Despite David's admissions of his involvement with skinheads and past conflicts with Stephen, he denied instructing Billy to kill Stephen, but conceded a small degree of responsibility, specifically 1%. David recounted a history of confrontations with Stephen, stemming from an accusation that Stephen had stolen a tablet computer from him. This accusation led to several aggressive encounters, including one where David brandished a revolver similar to the one used in the shooting. David had also made threatening statements and instructed other gang members to support him against Stephen, creating a hostile environment for the victim. The day of the shooting, Billy and David had a heated argument regarding David's ex-girlfriend, Krista Larson. Following the argument, Billy left in a white pickup truck. Witnesses described the shooter as a bald male with a goatee and no facial tattoos, fitting Billy's description more closely than David's. He recounted a history of confrontations with Stephen, stemming from an accusation that Stephen had stolen a tablet computer from him. This accusation led to several aggressive encounters, including one where David brandished a revolver similar to the one used in the shooting. Billy and David had a heated argument regarding David's ex-girlfriend, Krista Larson. Following the argument, Billy left in a white pickup truck. Witnesses described the shooter as a bald male with a goatee and no facial tattoos, fitting Billy's description more closely than David's. Billy was identified by Sean Whiteman, who testified that Billy had been in his truck that day, purchasing drugs and displaying visible agitation.
Calling all aspiring nurses in Coachella Valley. Kickstart your career with SJVC's accelerated nursing.
Sean witnessed Billy firing at Stephen, first striking him in the chest, then in the back. After the shooting, Billy directed Whiteman to hide the gun, which was later discovered by police. This weapon, a .22 caliber Ruger, matched shell casings found at the crime scene. Additionally, Billy's fingerprints were found on a CD case in the truck. Detective Peterson, a gang expert, testified about the criminal nature of California's skinhead gangs and their activities, linking Billy to the Clear Lake skinheads and the Volks Front. Peterson also noted the gang's patterns of violence and intimidation aligning with the nature of the crime committed. The jury acquitted Billy of first-degree murder, but found him guilty of second-degree murder and other related charges. Enhancements were applied, including the use of a firearm, gang-related activities, and the personal infliction of great bodily injury. Billy was sentenced to an aggregate term of 17 years to life in prison, including a 25-year enhancement for the firearm use and a 10-year enhancement for gang involvement. Additional terms were imposed for related charges, with some punishments stayed. Billy filed a timely appeal following his conviction. Stephen's end was a lonely one, with no one by his side during his final moments. Tragically, his mother passed away before she could learn the full extent of his condition, leaving a void that only deepens the sorrow of this loss. Stephen was a person who cherished sunny days and had a passion for tinkering and making little things for the ones he cared for. His life, marked by simple joys and personal interests, stands in stark contrast to the violence that ultimately claimed it. Do you think there...
We're gonna go ahead and wrap this one up, man. Hope y'all have a blessed one. Go ahead and like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see y'all on the next one.